There was a time not that long ago that the Hawthorn Footy Club were the most feared team in the competition, and no one wanted to play them. They played on an edge, and they become known as the unsociable Hawks. I want to introduce you to a new team. They are the sociable Hawks. So what you get now is you wander out as a forward, you get a little joke, a couple of zingers, a little pat on the back, a bit of rub of the head, and Lyon can take hangers all over the captain. The captain will have a laugh with him. James Sicily will go down the other end, and he and Oscar Allen will have a joke. I hated that. I hated seeing it.
I think that times have changed. You look at Clarko last year when they played the Giants. He runs out into the ground in his jocks. The blokes are laughing when it's snowing. I think looking at that team responds better with a chat and easy going. They're not that physical brute team that it used to be. And the group they got now is more of a calming influence rather than that physical mindset of crash and bash.
Yes, Ross, the boss time. Thanks to PointsBet. And Ross, what do you make of it? I want to show you some vision from the weekend against the West Coast Eagles Hawthorn.
I'm glad Gary brought it up because I was sitting home watching it like everyone else, and the Frawley-Kennedy caught my eye, and I was a bit uncomfortable, but I always check myself. Am I a lunatic? Am I being too hard? Pre-game, no problem. Before the ball's bounced, shake hands. But here, I didn't like it. Your club's under pressure, 41... I could guarantee you that wasn't happening grand final day when they're winning premierships, Frawley included.
So we can talk about that. This is what the unsociable Hawks were like. This was the weekend, obviously Sicily, Stratton. So here are some moments of, obviously, him making Buddy Franklin earn it there, Brian Lake, on grand final day. All right, so we're not talking about reports, doing anything silly. Roughhead, making him earn it on grand final day again. Why? Hodgie made the point there, times have changed. Why should
I
they
disagree with him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's changed. I think that the captain and what we were looking at earlier with Frawley, I think that mentality wasn't there when they thought they could win games of football, and a lot of them. Now they're just being nice. But you know what? You never get to a grand final if you don't play like it's a grand final every week. So I think... And I wouldn't be surprised. Clarko's a good mate of Gary Lyons. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a quiet word. Let's sharpen these blokes up.
So if you're Alistair Clarkson this week, could you walk in and say, 6 games to go, yes, we're going to trial some kids, but we need a harder edge than what we played with on the weekend. Would you give it to them old-fashioned?
Well, I wouldn't give it to them. I'd say the game demands it. I don't demand it. The game, if you're going to be a great team, it demands you're hard at the ball, hard at the man, and that hasn't changed. So how about we get fair income?
Yeah. Season-defining game this weekend, Western Bulldogs versus the Melbourne Football Club. Whether that 10th on the ladder versus the 8th. And I think the Dogs at 6 wins, 6 losses. Melbourne have a game in hand. This is like finals have come early, Ross, for the Western Bulldogs. Should be an absolute ripper game.
Well, there's no wriggle room here either. Melbourne in really good form, won a lot of games in a row now. They had the one slip-up. And the Bulldogs' form's been solid without getting across the line consistently. They had a convincing win last week. But this is where we're going to find out whether they're real. This is an audit for both teams. Yeah. Really exciting.
Selection's going to be critical. Here was Max Gawn speak on RSN this morning.
As my doctor and physio keep reminding me, I have had 2 ACL recos on that knee, so you have to be relatively careful, even though I've got a pretty aggressive mindset with it. With Prusy going extremely well against Brodie, there's not as much of a mad rush to make sure I'm playing.
So sounds like he's not going to play, no rush. Luke Jackson, their star number 3 recruit, he's not playing. Bruce has hurt himself at training, Ross. Have you ever been in a situation like that where you haven't...
Yeah, lots of times. And that's what the game keeps throwing at you. If you want to be a great team, you adapt and you improvise. I think Bruce will get up. I think their condition, as Burgess is talking about, I'll be surprised if he doesn't play. But if they don't, they have got some alternatives. They've got some tools within there, Tomlinson, McDonald, to have a run in the ruck. And they need to adapt their midfield. Doesn't matter whether it's English-dominated hits because the Bulldogs have adapted all year. Let's
take a look at that ruck battle, Ross. And Tim English, as you said, they're not winning a lot in terms of hit-outs there. You can see they're ranked 18th, the Western Bulldogs, in terms of hit-outs. And also Melbourne, even though they don't have a number 1 ruckman, can they still go OK at the clearances up against English, I think?
Yeah, they can, because without putting it up, Bulldogs ranked top 4 in the competition. Centre square bounce 3rd and ball ups top 4. So, you know what? You don't need a winning ruck to be a great clearance team. And the Bulldogs have proven it. And Melbourne, Oliver, Petracca, Viney, well, they can get it done as well if they really want to.
Ross, the style of plays between the 2 clubs are fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of... They're both front half pressure teams, but really the ball use is the one. So the Bulldogs are number 1, exiting the ball out of D50 in the AFL. It's 20% of their score source. So they love to switch the ball, get overlap, move the ball on, high handball, and move it in quickly to their forward line. And no one does it better. But Melbourne, conversely, dominate... stopping the attacking mid-possession games. They're number 1 in the competition at stopping teams doing this. So I think it's going to be a key battle. Can the Dogs sieve them from all the way from one end to the other? Or are Melbourne going to do this, what they've been doing against really good teams like Collingwood, and stopping the exits and sending the ball back into score? I think it's going to be won and lost with the ability to stop the Bulldogs transitioning the ball.
I can't wait for this game. And the midfield matchups, unbelievable. Bontempelli and Oliver. I'm not sure how they'll line up, but you've got... I reckon Oliver will go after Bontempelli. You've got Smith and Petrarca who break the lines, Ross. Brayshaw, Dunkley, tough. Libba and Viney, tough.
Some great matchups.
Yeah.
And I think probably the concern for Melbourne is the spread. You know, does Oliver spread as well as Bontempelli? Smith, great young player, it looks like. Are they going to match him on the spread? But can you handle Petrarca, Brayshaw, Oliver, the big men inside? That's going to be their challenge. And McRae on the outside, which you want to talk about, is quite special.
I know he's been dropped for 3 weeks. I'm not sure where he sits in this Melbourne lineup, but he's got such an engine and such a big tank. I would send him to McRae and say, don't let him get 30. If you can limit him to 20.
Yeah, I love your mindset. I think he's a role player. If you put Ed Langdon to him, Ed will get it a stack and McRae, but McRae uses a little bit better than Ed. But Tomlinson, how about you be physical, tailor your game just to minimise McRae, and that might force McRae inside, and then they've got to shuffle their team.
Hey, Ross, Aaron Norton, he seems a real key to the Dogs.
Real special young player. And the Bulldogs, we know, in those close losses recently, they've had a lot of entries, no score. What they are, when Norton kicks multiple goals in a game, 2 or more, they're 7 wins, 2 losses. So I think it's a critical, pivotal matchup for either the Bulldogs to dominate, but I think May's got to go to Norton. He hasn't been beaten all year, I don't think May. And I think look for pressure up the field, but leave it that special third man in, third up, to mitigate the damage of Norton. And then if they do that, Melbourne can get it done.
With the doubts on the ruckman, do you still think Melbourne win this game?
Well, I want them to step up. You know, I think they had one slip up. We all jumped on them, or they were on notice. But they've beaten some teams down the lower echelon of the ladder. This is their opportunity because the Bulldogs, if you don't turn up and you're not on, they will get you.
Yeah. Top 4 on the line, Brisbane and the St Kilda Footy Club. What a story the Saints have been. 5th, the Saints. 2nd, the Brisbane Lions. And some key stats, Ross. They are flying in so many areas, but there's one down the bottom that's significant.
Yeah, you can't separate them. Contest the ball, top 4 in the comp. Number 2, attack both of them. Points against, level. So you can't separate them. What they have, they've got 2 distinct styles, but Brisbane are really a build the ball up, long in, lock it in, number 1 in every area from their forward half. Whereas St Kilda are only 20 seconds versus 8 minutes is a lifetime to have an advantage locked in. Your backs are resting, your mids are resting. So I think it's the one area that Brisbane might get hold of them, because if we go back to the Geelong game, St Kilda couldn't shift the ball. So that's going to be a challenge. We're going to have a look at how St Kilda move the ball and how Brisbane do as well.
Yeah, and this is a key stat for mine. In the losses for St Kilda, so when they win, they concede 63 marks. Collingwood took 101 against them. The Dockers took 89 and Geelong took 100. So I think that's something where it takes the speed of St Kilda out of the game a little bit.
100%. Yeah. So you keep the pressure of St Kilda off you. You make them chase. But this is St Kilda with the ball. Give it to Brad. Give it to Brad. Doesn't happen, but it does now. So from the D50, they run, take it on. They love short, uncontested marks, overlap. Hit the lead up, make them defend. Here's Brad Hill on the overlap. Little bit of patience. Hit the leading forward. You can stop it, but if you don't, that's what they'll do to you. Yeah. But conversely, Brisbane get the ball, and you're going to see a clip next where Brisbane will control the ball more. That's one end to the other. That's pretty slick. But here, Brisbane under a little... They love to get a mark, no matter how they get it. It's a bit of a surge kick. But from here, they'll be patient. They'll try and set the field up. Any free North Melbourne defender or midfielder, you know what, we're not going to kick it to you. You come and find us. We'll, not dissimilar to Geelong, Hawthorn at their best years ago. We'll make you pick us up. They'll draw all the defenders out, and then they'll go into their forward line deep to a forward. They'll either take the mark, crumb it and pressure and kick the goal. So St Kilda better get ready for a lot of uncontested marks unless they squeeze up. And if they don't do it, I think Brisbane win the game.
What's a harder style to stop, the fast-paced movement of the Saints or this, you think?
No, well, fast-paced, the best teams are kick-mark, really. At the Saints and the Dockers, the quicker the oppo went, the more we liked it, because you can come forward to defend, chase from behind. You want to be pretty special with the ball, but take a mark, it takes the pressure, keeps the pressure off you.
This guy, obviously, Brownlow medal, raging favourite. The other guy, Jack Steele, if the season was stopped now, he'd be in the All-Australian team, you would think. Would you send your number 1 midfielder to Lockie Neal?
Yeah, I would send him to Lockie because Brisbane like a simple brand. They keep 6 forwards, 6 mid, 6 6 defenders. And I think if you tag Lockie, it forces Lockie to move around and disrupt the balance of his team to help his team. And no one likes being tagged. So he's the best player in the comp at the minute, Lockie Neal, on form. Send someone to him to knock him over.
Who do you like, Ross?
Me, I think Brisbane get it done.
Brisbane for me too, Ed.
Good on you guys. That was fantastic. Really, absolutely sensational tonight. A great insight into the thinking and the styles of play that we're going to look at on the weekend.